and welcome to the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative podcast. We are the business consortium shaping the future of trade finance and making this asset class investable. I'm your host, Doris Kuninovich, and today we'll be speaking with a leader in international freight and logistics. We're joined by Ernesto Vila, who's the CEO and founder of Tech Cargo, a leading international freight forwarding and logistics company that's making waves with cutting-edge technology and solutions. In today's episode, we'll be diving into how Tech Cargo is leveraging tech to overcome the challenges in global logistics, streamline operations, and ensure supply chain resilience in today's rapidly changing world. Hello, Ernesto.
Hi Doris, how are you? Nice to having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, and a warm welcome to the TFD initiative. You're one of the new members to the community.
Well, I'm pleased to be here, really making new connections, new friends. Andre has been instrumental in making those new introductions, so thank you, Andre, if you're listening somewhere.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. Let's start by learning more about Tech Cargo. Can you give us a bit of a quick overview of what inspired you to start the company and what sets Tech Cargo apart from other logistic players?
Sure. Well, I've been a freight forwarder and logistic industry for over 25 years, and I've always been very conscious of how close but yet far is the logistic industry with the financial industry. For some odd reason, these two industries have a lot in common, and yet they don't talk to each other. So we believe that there is a lot to gain from a more collaboration between these two industries, and that's how we funded Tech Cargo, on the basis of as the name gives it up, using technology to help funders in cross-border transactions, and that's what really sets us apart. We have a very specific on trade finance transactions.
And speaking about that technology, I think logistics has always been a big challenging field with global trade becoming more and more complex. So what role does technology, as you said, play in overcoming these challenges for freight forwarding and logistics, and how's Tech Cargo integrated to stay ahead?
Well, if we look at logistics as a standalone product, uh, it's an industry that's been very commoditized. Technology is making it even more commoditized, where the larger carriers are taking more market share from these smaller freight forwarders. So the way we have overcome that is bringing a specialty into the mix. Uh, in our particular case, our specialty is risk mitigation for trade finance, and that's what really sets us apart. So, in terms of technology, we do a very profound due diligence. Our freight forwarding members, so we have created a global network of participants across the globe. Our members have very good data from all their existing clients. So this is very good data that often is overlooked. So that's how we bring this thing together. And then on the technology front, we use IoTs. I know this is something that is being talked about, but we're boots on the ground. We really are the ones that installing these IoTs and containers and monitoring the movement of these goods across borders. So that's what we do to bring it all together.
And I think one of the critical challenges that a lot of businesses today are facing is the trade finance gap, especially for SMEs. How does Tech Cargo support its clients in overcoming this gap, and how have you integrated your trade finance solutions within your platform?
Yeah, well, so you're absolutely right, Doris. SME is something that's been in everybody's mouth in every forum, however, very little is done. Our entire thesis is that this integration between logistics and financial institutions could lower the lending criteria for SMEs. Fundamentally, because logistics providers could act as the risk mitigators for the financiers by just simply doing physical inspections at the point of origin, taking control and custody of the goods on behalf of the funders, and guaranteeing a complete trade or complete delivery to the ultimate debtor. And this is funny that you mention it because in the space of inventory finance, most funders are happy to advance payments once there is an actual bill of lading, meaning goods are confirmed on the water, But typically, the sellers are the ones hiring the freight forwarders, and this kind of leaves the funders exposed. You just give a quick sample. If there is a little mistake on a bill of lading and it needs to be corrected, it's a small typo. What happens is they have to go back to the seller. The seller go back to his forwarder to make that correction. If you follow that analogy, the seller could potentially, or the freight forwarder for that matter, could potentially change the consignment, the description of the goods, or the destination for that matter, after a payment has been made. So that's why we strongly believe that funders should control the logistics flow or the physical flow, and this could substantially reduce the fraud risk on SME lending, and that's all we advocate for.
You've made a really big point on the chain of processes that has to happen before business is done. There's a lot of collaboration and a lot of partnership that it is involved within your ecosystem as well, just for you to be able to get from A to B. And one of the things about the TFDI is we're about bridging the gaps, about bridging the trade finance gap with this ecosystem that involves a variety of players, from banks, credit insurers, investors. So I'm keen to know how Tech Cargo is working with financial institutions to ensure a smooth transaction for your clients.
Very good point. At this moment, our biggest, probably everybody's problem is liquidity. So having a strong relationship with these funders is paramount. So what we are bringing to the table is this global network of freight forwarders that we provide education for. I mean, freight forwarders are not very well versed in trade finance. This is our area of expertise. So as we onboard our members, we provide educations and provide the technical support. As a matter of fact, we're exploring right now with some of the members of TFDI, the bill of exchange, electronic bill of ladings, and these things that are probably very relevant and carry a lot of weight for the funders. So we're an aggregator of technology, not only for the bill of ladings, but also monitoring, especially now with all the crisis on Ukraine and Russia, monitoring beneficial owners, who are the ship charters, the origin of commodities. All of these things become very complex. And we're not even yet considering secondary sanctions. Things will get very difficult. So this is the type of things that we provide. Our members are, forwarders are by nature international. So we have members or boots on the ground, so I would rather say almost in every corner of the world, with a pulse on what's happening on the ground every day. So this is very important. And this is, of course, on the benefit of the funders all the time, yeah?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you touched on liquidity being, a very big pull. We know that in a market where it can be a big challenge, liquidity for companies, digital innovations can be the way forward. To help trade finance, to help address liquidity constraints, especially for smaller players. You've kind of answered this question already, but I guess I just want to dig a little bit deeper into, what kind of solutions and what kind of insight you can give that in solving the liquidity problem through
Sure.
technology.
Oh, yeah. So I'll tell you, we've been an early adopter of decentralized finance, DeFi. Probably one of the earliest projects that ever use a receivable tokenized to use it as collateral on MakerDAO. But the reality is that the real liquidity sits with the institutions. So the institutions are slow by nature, especially if there is some sort of uncertainty on the regulatory environment. So the biggest problem I would probably think is on the regulatory side, and then of course willingness from the institution to participate on exploring this digital transformation, if you will. So what we're doing is combining our physical management of the goods, which is something that everybody understands. We're just shifting the dynamics and putting the funders on the driver's seat. We are, working for them, so they're the principal party in the transaction. And after all, is there money? Is there exposure? there should be their own terms. So that's what we bring in, and of course, it's all supported through technology. I mean, to have an entire network, we're right now 98 freight forwarders in our network. To have this transaction moving through, we provide entire visibility to every participant on a single transaction, and then we employ as much technology is approved or regulated, if you will, like the electronic bill of lading, the bill of exchange. And that's what we're bringing into the table, kind of to make it all together. But the core is what everybody understands: the physical handling of the goods, where the funders are in the driver's seat, and that changes the dynamic substantially.
And with your community, I can imagine they're in different jurisdictions, different areas. Let's talk about regulation and compliance. You're dealing with complex trade finance regulations across many jurisdictions and regions. How are you managing compliance and regulatory requirements, and what role is technology playing in this, if at all?
Yeah, well, very good question, because yes, the world is very complex, and geopolitics are playing every time more and more relevant role. The Red Sea crisis have made things even more complex, where you need to be creative because the supply chains have been disrupted, and doing multimodal, meaning transactions that normally will go through the sea, you could probably put them on combination of truck, rail, and ocean. But sometimes you have to go through conflictive jurisdictions, and that makes things complicated. So having a good understanding of the landscape, understanding once again origins of the commodities that you're transporting, understanding if those chips that you capturing are have been compromised, have ever been participated on dubious activities, and this is all available through technology. There is plenty of technology out there that gives you eyes and records of all the commodity movement and the vessels that are hired. So that is important. So technology is a key component. But I go back to the humans. We have a network of humans with boots on the ground on every place that we work with, and that gives you a level of understanding of what's happening on the ground that is hard to replicate.
And speaking of these people who are boots on the ground, 2020 gave us a big shock with COVID, and a lot of businesses had to re-strategize very, very quickly and think about how to ensure supply chain resilience. I think one of the big challenges now is how to manage disruptions in supply chain, especially for businesses that have people are interconnected, have people on ground, and need this manpower to actually move from A to B. How's Tech Cargo adapted its approach to provide this sort of resilience during times of disruption, such as maybe a pandemic or even geopolitical events?
Well, I'll tell you, during COVID, I think was a big shock for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember everybody was, locked down and working from home, and mobility was restrained, although logistics was one of those priority sectors. However, having a shipment release meaning you need to present an original paper bill of lading to a carrier or a customs border officer just to get it processed. So we were instrumental in working with one of your members, which is CargoX, on piloting their electronic bill of lading in India. At the moment, was a necessity. Today, I think it's the common thing. Yeah, we'll see a lot more of that happening. Yeah. So today, the challenges are different. It is tension or resilience in the supply chain, and what we've been able to do or advise our client is to either do stockpiles or near shoring in the United States, very particularly, has become very popular. Where Mexico, for example, is picking up a lot of the trade of manufacturing that was happening in China. So this is a trend that is a long term strategy. I don't think they're going to go away. Stockpile, maybe in the short term, is very costly to have this inventory, especially now we're seeing consumer demand drop. So nothing is perfect, but it's something that is happening right now, and it's working on the lieu of this the Red Sea crisis, where you're adding, I don't know, like 10 days on trade on risky water. So complex to say the least. However, logistics is resilience, and COVID was the first time that we saw this. So today, the impact is, I would rather say, a little less than what we saw during COVID times.
I find that a lot of companies had to just adapt or move on. So, it's finding those innovative solutions that the next day becomes just like second nature. It's everyone does it now. It's not a big deal as it was in the past. It's just finding methods and ways and collaborative tools and companies that will help you just keep moving forward. And one of the things you mentioned is, working across border with different countries, as this industry continues to evolve and expand, especially with more companies focusing on sustainability, ESG is something you cannot escape from. How is Tech Cargo playing in this field, and how are you promoting more sustainable practices within logistics?
Well, as you know, logistics has a huge carbon footprint,
Mm-hmm.
from high seas emissions to over the road emissions. And it's very hard to, come to terms quickly. But also logistics has an impact on dunnage. All the packaging material that is used to transport goods has a huge impact. So what we're doing at the network level is fundamentally educating our members, bringing in vendors that provide reusable and sustainable packaging. So within the network, we could use pallets that chip in one direction, reuse them, and send them another direction back. And this is pretty much education to meet the EU goals for 2030. Additionally, today we're capable of measuring the carbon emissions on every single shipment, which this is remarkable. So within our network, we have this technology to measure the emissions on a single container. And I know these are small steps, but definitely steps in the right direction. So if everybody contributes, I think the impact will be felt.
Definitely, it's one step at a time. Sometimes it's not the very big moves that makes a difference. It's actually just being conscious and tracking on a step-by-step method. And so, before I let you go, let's talk about some future trade trends and insights. As the trade finance logistics industry becomes more interconnected, how are you foreseeing technology evolving in these sectors, and what exciting developments can we expect from Tech Cargo?
Well, well, Tech Cargo. So we like to, we're very big on SME lending, yeah. So we've from the technology side, we have developed, for example, we just launched an AI application to assist our freight forwarding members to do a proper risk analysis, financial risk analysis on their clients, and this is of course with the purpose of providing a financial facility for them. So that is a very big step. Think of this: our freight forwarders, or any freight forwarder, have long-lasting relationship with their clients. However, they never offer financial services. So we are strongly believers that freight forwarders could be a powerhouse in origination, and most likely an arm on the operational side. SME lending is difficult because it's a very fragmented sector. However, it's 60% of the world workforce. So we believe there's a huge opportunity there. But logistics also is a very fragmented industry. So we have the boots on the ground. We know how it's done. Logistics is very labor intense. So for us, it will be very simple to upsell our clients. So Tech Cargo and the network's goal is to partner with financial institutions, so funders, and explain our model, and most likely help them into making decisions in bridging that gap on SME lending. That's where we're going to. So from a logistic perspective, we've been stepping in a little bit on the financial world and creating solutions for our freight forwarder members that are not financiers, but for them properly assess financial risk and be able to propose facility for those clients.
Well, wishing you every success in your endeavors, and hoping to hear more from Tech Cargo in the future. And thank you so much for those insights today. I'm quite excited to see that Tech Cargo is sort of driving a lot of innovative change in a technology-driven way. Ernesto, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Doris. Thank you for having me again.
To our listeners, if you're looking for a company that is transforming freight and forwarding logistics for a more connected and resilient future, be sure to check out techcargo.com. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Doris Kalinovich, your host. Until next time, stay informed and stay ahead.